All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Browns Beat podcast. I am Derek. And who are you, sir?
And I'm your friend Tristan.
You're our friend Tristan. Yeah, right off the bat, I said this to Tristan. I know this is not important, doesn't matter at all. But if I look like a tomato, I just got out of the shower, and for whatever reason, when I get out of the shower, my face is just really red. So I apologize. It'll probably fix itself, but nevertheless, so, victory. Excuse me. Victory Monday. Is it really a victory Monday? It doesn't feel like it. How are you feeling, Tristan?
I got to be honest. Yesterday, I was same vibe as you. I was not really feeling like a victory Monday. But you know what? Late last night and throughout today, I've kind of flipped a switch, and we'll talk about it the deeper we get into the podcast. But I'm gonna preach a little bit. Hopefully, make you feel better, and anybody else who feels the same way as you better. So we'll see.
Oof. Okay. I feel this will be an interesting podcast because I feel like maybe this will be a podcast where we kind of have conflicting, not viewpoints, because I don't think it's viewpoints. I think it's just, I almost said different points of view. That's not what I'm trying to say. We're just at different points in reacting to the game, I guess is just the right way to say it. But
yeah.
Nevertheless, let's just dive into it. Yesterday, the Cleveland Browns, coming off of a huge win, biggest win in the NFL, beating the San Francisco 49ers, somehow win against the Indianapolis Colts with a score of 39-38. It's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about with this game. So, Tristan, where do you want to start with this? Do you just want to start kind of a general overview of the game? What do you want to do here?
Yeah. For me, how I would say this game. So, we'll get into the nitty gritty, but let me just start off with kind of like my overall point of view, right? So, right after the game, I was on Spaces, and I was talking about how, like, hey, listen, I'm glad we got the win, but like, we've got an issue with our quarterback situation. We got to make a move. There's a lot of issues all over the place that need to get fixed, and and I stand by that still. I agree with that, but I wasn't really enjoying the win. I wasn't enjoying the victory. But then over the past kind of, I'd say over the past like 24 hours since that win, I've kind of had like a realization. And that realization is this. Derek, let me ask you this. Did the offense play well yesterday?
No.
Did the defense outside of Myles Garrett play well yesterday?
No.
Special teams, Dustin Hopkins, we can exclude him, but was our special teams yesterday anything that would have moved the needle to make us win?
No, other than I think Bajorquez had a couple pretty good punts, but outside of that, I mean, not really.
Yeah. So all of that, on top of the fact that we lost our starting quarterback in the first quarter, and we still found a way to win. This is a team that just last year, more than five of them, I don't remember the exact number, but more than 5 of our losses were determined by less than 7 points. And so far this year, we've had 3 of those games that have been decided by less than 7 points, and we've come away with 2 of those wins. It's huge. It's huge. And, I'm going to agree with you on most of the things you say about how this team is performing right now. But at the end of the day, we're finding ways to win. And that's something we have never been able to do for a very, very long time. And we're getting it done. And the thing I'll say is this. Indy is not some team that you just walk over, okay? Indy is a team that is a 500 team. They've got a great head coach. They've got some great talent on offense, and some solid, like a good front seven on defense as well. Um, they are not a pushover. This is not like a Arizona Cardinals. This is not and excuse my dog barking in the background. Apologies, guys, but
Don't
um,
mind.
this is not a terrible team that we just beat. It's a solid team. Like it's a team that I would say they are where we were a couple of years ago. The past couple of years, I would say, where not quite good enough to get to the playoffs, but you know what? You got to respect them when you play them. And we beat them, and we beat them shorthanded at quarterback, and we had a lot of issues happen throughout the game that we did not prepare for, and our defense got gashed. So all of those things went that way, and we still found a way to win. And what that tells me is the individual players on our team are incredible. Incredible. I mean, Myles Garrett, the performance that we saw from him yesterday was unbelievable. And yesterday, what kind of I had this realization was all of this happened. We still found a way to win against a good opponent with a great offensive line, a great running game. You know, pretty much similar to what we were a couple like last year and the year before, and yet we still won. And so my realization was this team, based on just the talent that we field, is a contender. Hands down, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a contender. This defense had a terrible game, but for the most part has been lights out. And if they were lights out yesterday, we would have won pretty convincingly. Um, the thing I'll say is this: we haven't had consistency at the quarterback position at all this year. However, we have still found ways to win. And if we can find consistency and good production out of the quarterback position, then this team is going to be unbelievable. And we have a lot of time to figure this out. We do. We
Mhm.
really do. We've got Seattle and Arizona, who are NFC opponents, whose games, if we lose those games, it sucks. But hey, you know what? It's not an AFC opponent, so it's not as important. Um, we're technically just one terrible game away from Pittsburgh from being a 5-1 football team right now. That's the
Yeah.
reality. like we are one terrible game from being that. And it's just this team has so much potential. And what I'll say is this: if we can get it together, and it doesn't have to be now, it doesn't have to be next week, it doesn't have to be the week after, it doesn't even have to be this month or next month. If we can get it together by the time that playoffs roll around and we get in and we get this thing rolling by then, this is a team that has every single capability of winning a Super Bowl. And that was the realization I came to yesterday was, you know, I've seen enough to say this can be a Super Bowl team, 100%. We were saying we believed it could be before, but now we've seen it's possible. It's actually possible. We have to have this and this go right, and it's this isn't me saying it's going to happen, not at all, but this is me saying from what we've seen and what we know, it's certainly possible. And no team in the NFL right now looks like a world beater. None. Nobody. The Lions looked like they could have been that. They got blown out by the Ravens. The Ravens, they look good right now. They do. However, earlier this year, before they played us, could we say that? I don't think so. I don't think we could have said that about them because their offense wasn't clicking. Now it is, but that's the thing I want to say, and the thing that I want to preach is there's just so much potential here.
Okay. Um, how do I want to start this? Um, I guess I'll just go with my general overview first because obviously there's going to be a huge discussion and probably the biggest chunk of this podcast is going to be talking about Deshaun Watson. But um, That game yesterday, I mean, it's the most prototypical trap game you've ever seen in your life. Coming off of a huge win, you're on the road against an opponent that's solid, but you could easily overlook, right? I mean, I said it's a no brainer win, shouldn't be close. And um, here's my thing. This is what pisses me off so much. The Cleveland Browns did not win yesterday. They did not. The Browns were handed that game. And I know it's something that we're not used to because normally we're on the opposite side of it. And sure, it's a win in the win-loss column, yes, but for me personally, you're not going to get that, right? The reason and I almost feel like I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories, but I almost feel like they want the AFC North to be just a monster division heading towards playoff time. I kind of get that sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these games are flexed to primetime games. Now, I'm not going to go with that. I'm not going to dive into a conspiracy theory, but um, the Browns didn't win. The Browns were lucky. And that's just the harsh reality. You got to take a hard, good look in the mirror and look yourself in the eyes and say, okay, did I do it? Did I earn it? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. What pisses me off is on multiple different occasions, the Browns shot themselves in the foot. And for me, Josh Downs, that first the long bomb from Gardner Minshew to Josh Downs, where Miles Garrett jumped off sides and stopped. And Miles Garrett had an unreal game, right? Had a DPOY game, right? That is a resume highlight tape that you send in and say, hey, this is why I'm the best defensive player in the NFL. But just time after time, Miles fucking Garrett quit trying to guess the snap. I so many times I was just I couldn't understand why when I get it, like you're getting all this pressure and you're dominating in this game, but so many times we just bailed the Colts out. And the first one was obviously the biggest because had Miles Garrett, they should have called that play dead, honestly. But had Miles Garrett kept running at Gardner Minshew, is he making that throw? I mean there's just certain things that you have to stop and you have to look at. Um, the secondary I thought was questionable at the very best. I mean, it just felt like Joe Woods was back again, and I'm not entirely sure why. I really don't understand why. Um, and some guys like Michael Pittman just made plays, right? They had some playmakers that just did some things, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But defensively, outside of Miles Garrett, I was just very confused. I was very confused with Jim Schwartz, what we were doing. I was very confused with the miscommunication that seemed to all of a sudden pop up again. That was such a big problem last year. That hasn't been a problem at all this year. Um, so that's defensively. Now, offensively, and I will let you respond before we get into Watson, so don't worry. But offensively, we just can't fucking throw over the middle of the field. And it pisses me off so much because from a game plan and a coaching standpoint, throwing the football is really not as hard as we're making it, right? And yes, I know our quarterback situation is what it is. But for the love of God, man, why does it feel like we're throwing to the sideline every single fucking time? It just makes no sense to me. And the run game, Jerome Ford's out now. We'll talk about that. But yet again, another game where I felt like Kareem Hunt was the offense for the most part. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, Pierre Strong, they were the offense. And what really sucks about that is it's just so frustrating to me because David Njoku has had some very good games the last few games. Amari Cooper has had a very good season. You have guys who can do things, and we just cannot get the ball in their hands. This offense is stagnant. I think Kevin Stefanski, whoa, his play calling has been nothing short of bullshit. I think in this game. I mean, it was. I understand it, I get it, but just so many times where I'm like, what are we doing? Like, that game was a game that made me go back to questioning Kevin Stefanski. And again, I talked about it on the podcast last time. It's the Ryan Day syndrome, where he'll come out and he will just be flat out brain dead retarded with some of these play calls. And then he'll have a game like the 49ers where it's like, whoa, okay, finally, we're doing something. And we can't do that. This is the NFL. It's one thing if you're Ohio State and you're playing Akron, it's one thing. You can do stupid shit. NFL is a week to week league, right? Look at the Giants they just beat the 40 or the Commanders. The Patriots just beat the Bills. It was upset century or whatever. You get what I'm saying. Ton of upsets, right? The Browns should have been one of those upsets. We're lucky we weren't, but we should have been. And I really do. I put a lot of blame on ourselves, and I think honestly, to me it's a sign of a culture issue because coming off of a win like that, you should not be riding that high, and I understand why they were, but even in the post game thing, and it's not a big deal. I understand that, Tristan. I know you're going to say it's not that big of a deal, but the whole, who wants to take a day off or whatever, right? And everybody, and then they came in on Wednesday. That whole thing, it's not a big deal at all. I get it. A lot of teams do it. But what you heard in the locker room is what pissed me off. It was the responses from the players of being like, you had that kind of um it was almost like split three ways. There was the people who were like, I ain't coming in, right? And then you had the people that were like, uh, yeah, we want to come in. And then you had the people who were like, fuck yeah, we want to come in. We need, like, that's what I don't like. It just seems like this team is very much all over the place. The offense is very much all over the place. The defense outside of that game, very good. But in this game, just a bunch of bullshit. That's my biggest problem. Just a bunch of bullshit. And outside of a few calls, you lose that game. And when we talk about stacking wins, yeah, did we find a way to win? Sure. But I don't really count this game as one of those find a way to win games, personally. But before we talk about Deshaun and Jerome Ford, just give me give me your response to that.
Yeah. Let me first start off because you started off on defense. That play where we got gashed and Miles jumped off sides. I mean, my personal opinion is this: every elite pass rusher jumps off sides. Every single one does it. So, for me, you know, he's a game wrecker. He was the reason why we won. I'm not going to put that on him. I'm going to put that on the guy who decided to stop covering his guy, which was Grant
Yeah.
Delpit. I thought Grant Delpit at the very beginning of this game was terrible. I thought he was terrible. You talk about that play where he just completely stopped in his tracks and stopped guarding his man. And then not only that, but you also look at uh, the Gardner Minshew, the first run into the end zone. Gardner Minshew has the ball. He's running right at him, and he decides to run after the running back rather than going after the quarterback who's right in front of you. If you take two steps, you're lighting his ass up. Like, that one put 6 on the board. I thought the secondary as a whole was pretty terrible, minus Denzel Ward. I thought Denzel Ward was okay. And even him, he had a couple of plays where it didn't look great. You're absolutely right. There were communication issues. And I think that Jim Schwartz up to this point has been, we're going to play our defense and you're going to have to deal with it. Shane Steichen has been killing it so far as the Colts head coach, and as a play caller, he is fantastic.
Mhm.
He's a great play caller. Um, I think that Jim Schwartz came in, and I think he overanalyzed Steichen a bit, and I think he looked at the receivers that he had, like Michael Pittman, as like a big bodied receiver. And I think it was the first time he was a little bit more scared of going man as much as he has been. Um, and you know what? Hey, in a way, I can kind of get that. And he also, I think he might have thought a bit too much of Jonathan Taylor having an impact, and that's why he wanted to sit in zone more, but
Mhm.
keep more eyes in the backfield. But I just, I don't know if that's what he was saying. I'm just guessing, but I'd imagine that's what he was thinking and calling more zone. Like we've watched so much football with Joe Woods as as the coordinator. This team struggles in zone. They just do, for whatever reason. And listen, you
Always have. Always have.
always have. And listen, you can never go through a game and run 100% man. You'll get killed.
Mhm.
But it needs to be where it was before,
Mhm.
where it was before for us. Um, so Jim Schwartz, I'm sure he'll bounce back. You know that this was, you know, it's very much like a write off. He can get a pass for this. Um, I will highlight. Uh, I thought Jordan Elliott had a few really big plays in this
Oh,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
He looked
Mhm.
great. I mean, my God,
His best game as a Brown,
yeah,
100%.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought like he came out and he looked damn good. Like he was bull rushing the guy in front of him. I don't remember who he was bull rushing, but uh like he just powered through his guy, got into the backfield and just brought I thought it was a sack. I thought he brought Minshew to the
Yeah,
ground.
he had a sack,
Um
yep.
yeah, and I was just like that's Jordan Elliott. You mean the guy who was starting for us last year and was getting mollywopped on the D
Mhm.
line? What the hell is happening? Like
Mo
he
Hurst had a
looked
good
really
game
good.
again also.
Mohurst has been unbelievable for us, and I hate to be the guy that said
I
I told
know.
you so, but I
You
also love
did.
it.
You
Um,
did.
I always feel good when I'm right, and I never feel bad. So, um,
You know what he is this year? He's this year's version of, you know who I'm talking about. I forget his name. The one who was,
oh,
slinging dick in front of children. What was his name? Malik McDowell. Malik McDowell. That's yeah. He's this year's Malik McDowell, or he's better than he has any business being.
Jesus. Okay.
Except you can trust Mo Hurst around your kids. Probably. I think so. I don't know for sure. You know, I don't know.
Anyways,
Uh,
um, moving on.
yep.
Yeah, no, it was just a bad game for the secondary in general. Obviously Miles Garrett had a great game. I thought Obo had some good moments too on the defense.
Oh, shit.
Um, but let me jump to the offense now. So, um, while I'm talking about good performers. Pierre Strong, man, like he runs the ball like he's angry at the turf. Like that guy, like he just, I swear, I blink my eyes and he's already past the line of scrimmage with that ball. Like he is so fast and very decisive in where he's going with the ball. And I like that about him. I like that a lot. And Derek, you've heard me say for the past 2 weeks, hey, I think Pierre Strong should get more touches. I think Pierre Strong should get more touches.
I agree.
Now with Jerome Ford being out, we'll dive more into that as well. I think he will get more touches, or at least he should, because man, he deserves them. Um, as far as the receiving game goes, what I'll say is this. So I thought Njoku had a good game. I thought he looked good. Um, I think there's a whole nother level to his game that we just haven't tapped into yet. And I agree with you there. Like we need to target him more. I think he and Amari Cooper should be up there with targets. And again, yesterday, Mari had a quiet game. Um, what you good?
This sorry, I have Monday Night Football on. Yet again another podcast with football on in the background, but um Cousins just threw a slant over the middle to I think Jordan Addison and Ward, not Denzel Ward, but you know what I'm talking about, was like covering him, and like as he was tackling him, just ripped the ball out. And as they were on the ground, they were fighting, and he got it. The Niners got a turnover. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, here
Yeah.
it is again.
Well,
Yep, slant, good coverage, just took it, man.
wow.
Anyways,
But
sorry.
yeah, yeah, no, it's fine. Um, yeah, I thought that through the air we were underwhelming to say the least. I thought Kareem had a good game. I think our offensive line has taken a step forward. I will say I feel like they are not nearly as much of a liability as they were before. I thought Jed Wills again had a solid game. Um, as listen, like he's been a guy that we've criticized heavily and rightfully so because he was very very bad at the beginning of this year, but it seems like he's turning it around. So good for him. Um, and here's what I'll say about the offense. Kevin Stefanski, I hated how he came out with Deshaun Watson. It felt like we went back to what we were doing against Pittsburgh with Deshaun.
Mhm.
Where we were calling these plays that were, uh, you know, deep routes, developing deep down the field. Like we were trying to get the ball deep down the field almost every pass play. And I will say this: it's fucking annoying. It's really fucking annoying because last week against San Francisco, that was the blueprint. You got the ball into your playmakers' hands with space, like the end arounds with Marquise Goodwin instead of Elijah Moore showed you that listen, your personnel dictates with Deshaun Watson, this needs to be a spread team, like a team that runs spread coverage. You know, get three receivers and Njoku on the field and put Deshaun in shotgun with a running back in. I don't care how you do it, but we need to have multiple receivers on the field, more
Yeah.
than two. We need to at all times, including Njoku. Like we need to have
We
more.
need to open it. It's just
Yes,
so like condensed, and we need to just spread it out, open it up
yes,
more.
yes. Because
It's
at the end of the day, if you let Deshaun sit in the pocket, you know the thing that Deshaun has been so good in the NFL with is he sits in the pocket in shotgun. He finds his guy quickly. Excuse me, or because of the fact that he has a lot of receivers on the field, he knows that if he can buy time with his legs, somebody's going to get open because there's not enough guys on the field to cover everybody that you get on the field when you have that many receivers in spread. And so, that's where I feel like Kevin is just taking a dump on the talent that we have with Deshaun. I thought his game plan was atrocious today coming into it. Um, That being said, later in the game, after Deshaun went out, unfortunately, I thought his game plan got a lot better. I thought his play calling got a lot better. Um,
another
and
turnover back to
yeah,
back.
jeez.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And speaking about turnovers, I mean, defense got some crucial ones, but we are still turning the ball over like crazy on offense. And listen, it comes down to PJ Walker was the backup, and he's thrown like three interceptions since
Mhm.
he's been here. Um, but even Deshaun has had his fair share of interceptions too. And I mean, man, like I just and I don't know if you want to dive into the quarterback conversation right now. Um, but I mean, we can't go forward with PJ as the backup at this point. Just because we don't know what we've got with Deshaun. We need more stability back there. So, um, is that where you want to go with this? Do you want to kind of go
We
into the
can.
quarterback
Yeah.
conversation? Okay, then I'll let you go because I talked for quite a while there.
All good. Okay. I sat here last week and I told you I was very concerned with Deshaun. I was very I just had a bad feeling. Just had a bad feeling. And I we're fucked. I mean, it's just that simple. We're absolutely fucked. There's this season this is going to be a continuing problem. And I don't think people have comprehended that or understood that yet. I think people are still kind of like, oh no, it'll be fine. Or at least some people. Deshaun will have this injury over the course of the season. This is going to be a continuous problem. And the issue that I have is Deshaun Watson's not even competent, right? You have people out there saying, "Oh, we don't need him to be 100%." He's not even 10%, right? He couldn't even throw a simple dump off pass to Jerome Ford. I mean, threw it in the dirt. He cannot throw right now, and if he cannot throw, then the only attack we have with him is his legs. And is he going to use his legs? Hell no. Why would he? He's going to hurt himself even more. Um, Deshaun Watson is essentially just an injured deer out there playing quarterback. And for me, it's tough because we're just not going to see that Deshaun. Not this season. No, we're just not going to see it. And that's my biggest problem I have and why I'm so frustrated. We have a team with a good offensive line that's playing better. Like you said, we have an all time defense as far as an all time Browns defense. And, the Browns are going to win games. We're going to be better. We're going to find ways to win games. And all we need is competency. All we need is a competent quarterback. We don't need him to be special. We just need a play to be made every once in a while. That's how we've won these games with PJ Walker. He sucked the whole game, but he's made the 1 to 2, 3 plays that we needed to get down and win. And the unfortunate situation that we're heading into is you have the Seahawks, which, if we have time, we'll talk about, but the Seahawks are going to be a tougher game than people think, I feel like. It'll be tougher than this last game for sure. The Cardinals, and then it starts getting hard again. And you kind of get into a stretch where you have the Steelers again, the Ravens again. And for me, the frustrating part is even if we do, and I hope we do, because again, stacking wins. If you can beat the Seahawks, if you can beat the Cardinals, then what? We're sitting at
Six
six
and
and
two.
6-2. That's a great record. That puts you at a really good spot. However, then it gets real. Then, you got to face the Ravens again. You got to face the Steelers defense again, among other teams. And the problem I have is Deshaun Watson will not be ready for those games. And I'm really not sure how to not even how to handle. It's just how the Browns are going to handle this is what concerns me because you have a guy in PJ Walker who's more experienced. He's a veteran, whatever. But that's it. I mean, he's just a guy. He's an XFL quarterback. For me personally, Tristan, give DTR another shot. You have two quarterbacks right now on the roster. And the conversation about bringing somebody in, the only one, Kirk Cousins, it's not. I would be shocked. I would be genuinely speechless if I found out that Kirk Cousins all of a sudden was a starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. I would be shocked. Jacoby Brissett is totally different story, right? This is a guy who's not starting for the Commanders, who is brought in to possibly start. They don't need him to start. Sam Howell's been fine. He's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, right? He already knows Stefanski's offense. If we trade for Jacoby Brissett, I'll be like, okay, I get it. And we'll win games. We will win games with Jacoby Brissett. I will feel a hell of a lot more comfortable right now with Jacoby Brissett as my starting quarterback than I would if PJ was, if PJ or if DTR was, just because we know what Jacoby is. We've seen it, right? Even though we don't have Nick Chubb, we still have the defense. And Jacoby can get the ball to the receivers more than PJ Walker. So if there's any move to be made, that's the move I would make. But I'm about damn near tired of Deshaun. I'm being completely honest with you. The honeymoon phase for me is over with Deshaun Watson. I'm tired. And there was this point with Baker for me where he would suck And I would just in my head, I would be like, no, I know he's good. Like I know he can play quarterback at a high level. And I would watch his highlights and I would go back and I'd be like, it's there. It's like he has it. It's there. And yet week after week after week, it's the same thing. And I'm telling you right now, I've caught myself with it with Deshaun, where I've had that in my head of like, no, he's a guy. We have a guy, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not sitting here trying to convince myself that he's a good player. I'm not gonna sit here and convince myself like we're gonna be fine. I'm not doing it. And until he proves otherwise, he has no right for us to do it. He has not earned the ability to get a pass anymore. He has had one good game as a Cleveland Brown. One complete good game, top to bottom, against Tennessee Titans. That's it. That's it. One good game for 300 or $230 million. And I know that's what gets brought up a lot. I know it's the money. It's not even the money that I necessarily care about. What I care about is we have a team, like you said, that is not just ready to go compete, it's ready to go wreck the playoffs. I think this team, if remains healthy, can wreck the playoffs, shock people, catch people off guard. Um, and if you had a healthy Deshaun Watson and you had a Deshaun Watson that was playing just at the same level that he played against the Titans, right? If that was the consistent Deshaun Watson that we got, I would be sitting here telling you this team, like you said, can win a Super Bowl. I mean, they just can. My problem is I don't think we're going to get that. And I don't want to sit here and try to talk myself into thinking we're going to get that because I don't think we are. And the issue becomes okay, where do you go from here? What do you do? The good news is the Seahawks, I think they do have a good defense. I think their secondary is great. Um, I'm not thrilled with their defensive line. They just lost one of their defensive ends. Um, I want to say for the season with the torn pec. So for me, I think if there's any game to kind of get right offensively, it's these next two, right? You're not going to have the crazy pressure against the Seahawks, even though they got a good secondary. You can still find ways to move the ball. And against the Cardinals suck. So, you know, it, it's, I'm just tired. I'm tired of doing this over and over again. I really am. I really am. And I think I think DTR deserves another shot. I think how this organization has treated him as far as this situation has been not fair at all. Um, he's not a bad player. He's a rookie quarterback who went up against a great Baltimore team and a really good Baltimore defense. I think we have massively underrated the Baltimore Ravens. If you give him preparation, you game plan around him, I think DTR could be good for you. He could be competent. He could get the job done. He'll still make mistakes, but man, we have written him off and we won't even give him a shot. I know he's been hurt, but if you're not trading for a quarterback, you better be giving DTR a shot. That's where I'm at because I'm done, dude. I really am. I'm fed up and I'm tired of Deshaun. Um, I, because it's the same thing. It's the Baker thing all over again. It's you have the fan base that's with him no matter what. He'll be fine. He's our guy. And then you have the people that always have hated him. Um, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And maybe, I'm not saying I don't want Deshaun Watson to be my quarterback. I want him to be who he is, who he was. I'm getting to that point where I don't know if that's who he is anymore. And I don't know if he can get back to it because he's going to have surgery.
So
So
is there something that like you've like is there been something that's like a report that says that he needs surgery or something that you've read? Because I have never seen anything of that.
I
And
had, well, it wasn't a report, but on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I forget the guy's name, but
mhm.
he talked to somebody who's like a specialist in it who deals with athletes, and he was told
Are you
Um,
talking about Adam the Bull and
no, no, no.
G. Bush's
I mean,
interview with
it's that
with
it's
him?
that show. It wasn't that interview though.
No, okay.
I forget the main guy who's like the host. He used to work for
Jay
ESPN.
Crawford. Jay Crawford, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
He was talking about it. I want to say it was today. With a specialist that was essentially like, hey, that shoulder's not. It's just it's not gonna heal the way Deshaun needs it to heal given the situation he's in. Basically saying that he would have to just strictly rest for like 4 months, and that's not going to happen. So,
Okay.
it's a harsh reality and it sucks, but I think as an organization, and I really do. I really hate that I'm about to say this because I said it with Baker and it scares me that I'm going to say this again. You got to take a look in the mirror, reevaluate yourself, and look at the situation honestly. Stop lying to yourself, thinking Deshaun's going to get back fully and we're going to be fine in the next couple weeks. I think we got to really take a good, hard look at this team offensively, where we're going, and how we're going to continue to get where we want to go. I think that's a significant thing. You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah. So, here's my point, Derek. Is like, so I actually this is going to be one of the very few times I completely disagree with you, and
Okay.
here's why I say that. Um, and again, I respect everything that you said, and based on our history, absolutely, I understand why you feel that way. This isn't me saying you're wrong. It's just my opinion.
No, you
Um,
hate. No, I'm just
so,
kidding.
but here's what I'll say. The first time that we saw Deshaun Watson, it was his first time playing NFL action in a little over a year and a half. So you know what? We really judge him that harshly on that? You know, I don't know. I get what you're saying about the one win in in so many games. And here's what I'll say to combat that. That one win came on his third or fourth consecutive start. And this is where I'm at. He has not had a run of games yet. That was his first run of games, and he finally got that third or fourth game, whatever it was in a row, where he's playing every week, and he started to look great. You saw it. You saw him go back to what he was. He looked fantastic in that game. And Tennessee is not a slouch. Like Tennessee is a good football team, and he made them look terrible. That's what it was. And so it tells me, all right, listen, this guy's got that ability. He's still got that ability. He gets an injury. He doesn't pick up a football for 3 weeks. He comes back in this game and doesn't look hot. In total, Deshaun Watson for the Cleveland Browns has played half a season worth of games, and it's been consecutive games in a row. So what I'm saying is this is like, I agree with you. He hasn't proven it yet. He hasn't proven much, but he hasn't had the opportunity to get himself into a rhythm to play consistently. He hasn't had this opportunity to establish that. So I'm not anywhere near ready to hop off the Deshaun Watson train myself, just because I know he's still got that talent in him. As far as the injury stuff goes, I mean, if it was something that surgically needed repaired, right? And Mary Kay Cabot hasn't been able to figure that out. None of the closest Browns reporters have been able to figure it out. None of the national reporters like Rappaport, Schefter, none of them have been able to figure it out. And we've got advice on possibilities from doctors that we can go off. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not writing them off because I've listened to interviews that they've had in the past. I respect their work, huge fan of their content. But at this point, what it is they've got doctors speculating on what it could be rather
Mhm.
than knowing exactly what's wrong. Nobody's reported this is a legit thing. If it was a legit thing and they decided to to throw him out there instead of
You're
trying to
talking
figure
about
something
surgery,
else,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
absolutely. If they decided, let me say this: if they decided, if their bright brains decided, and if this comes out, I will rip them apart and I'll be with you, because if their bright brains decided that it was a good idea to take a guy who needed surgery and just stick him on the sidelines for a few weeks and that's going to fix it when you've invested $230 million into him, I'd be pissed. I'd be royally pissed that we didn't just try to figure something else out, because he doesn't deserve that. He's got years left on his contract, So that's where I'm at, is like, it would make zero sense if it was really that bad that we're treating it this way. That's where I'm at, is if it's seriously that bad, he needs surgery on his throwing shoulder,
Mm.
you know, that we're gonna just say, figure it out, go out there. Now, why did Stefanski decide to pull him from yesterday's game when, he didn't have a concussion and he was just worried about re-aggravation or whatever, or he just was doing it out of an abundance of caution? I don't know. I don't know as though I agree with it. Maybe he wanted like Deshaun to get an MRI first before, continuing to possibly further injure his injury or something. I don't know. Um, but what I will say is this: I think that we're gonna figure this out later in the year. And what I'll say is this, Derek: if you're right, if this is something that at season's end it's reported he needed surgery, I will be royally pissed, because we would essentially be doing to him what we did to Baker, and
Yeah.
that's making him play through something he shouldn't have to play through when he's supposedly the franchise guy. So, protect your quarterback. I will, based off of the experience that this coaching staff and this front office has had with handling a quarterback injury, if that's how they chose to deal with it again, um, it would change my entire idea of what we're doing here. But I'm not there yet. I'm just not. Um,
Okay.
I
Let
I
me let
will.
me
Sorry,
go.
you can go. You can go.
I was just gonna say, let me explain why I'm where I'm at, because I do think, like, I think it's not like I just think this organization is incompetent. That's not what I'm saying at all. Obviously, Andrew Berry's smart, Kevin Stefanski smart. They know. My problem is I think it's coming from the top. I really do. And whatever, you know, people want to say about this is fine. I don't care. Call me an idiot. It's fine. I think Jimmy Haslam is saying Deshaun Watson needs to play. I really do. I think I think he's been under fire for the decision to get Deshaun Watson. I think he knows that this has to work or it's going to be a disaster. I think that we're in a situation where we have a good football team that needs its quarterback, and we're trying to force a quarterback to be a quarterback who can't be a quarterback right now. And the reason why I say that is this injury, and the reason why I feel the way I do. And I totally get where you're coming from. I really do, because that's where I wish I would be at. That's how I wish I would feel. However, just, you know, having a shoulder injury myself, understanding, even though it's not the same thing, understanding that it's still recent is kind of where I'm coming from. It's still a new ish injury, if you want to call it that. Because you got to think of it like this: it's a long timeline, right? These injuries are not like 1 week and it's perfectly fine. There's so much that goes into it. And for me, the problem that I have is preparation. Deshaun can't prepare as he needs to go into a game, because sure, he's throwing in practice, whatever. But I'm telling you right now, Deshaun Watson's in practice and he rips a ball hard and he has to put a lot of arm into it. That's not helping. And it's the continuation of little things over and over and over that are going to make it worse. And that's why I'm at where I'm at. I think there's an organizational failure from Jimmy Haslam putting pressure on Kevin Stefanski, putting pressure on Andrew Berry to play Deshaun for various reasons. And what makes me so upset is because where Deshaun's at right now, I think if he were to, for instance, go on the IR, come back in a few weeks, he could play at a competent level. I still don't think he can go above and beyond with this injury. And maybe I'm just overthinking it because of Baker, overthinking it because of myself, and maybe it's that. I could be totally wrong. But my problem is more so I think this organization is failing him from the top. That's how I feel. And I think the chain reaction because of that is just going to further cause Deshaun to get more and more hurt. And the big thing that nobody's talking about is the confidence. Deshaun Watson goes out there, throws ball in the dirt, throws what do you throw? A couple interceptions, something like that.
One interception. That second one was a dropped interception.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one interception that could have been two, right? And he knows it could have been two. He's a starting quarterback, right? His confidence is dead. It's absolutely dead. And you're continuing to say, "Yep, he's fine. He's good to go. He's our starting quarterback next week." Kevin Stefanski's starting to piss me off because what he should have said is, "We're going to take a look at Deshaun. We're going to reevaluate him. We're going to see if he's able to go, how he's feeling. You know what I mean? That sort of thing." But no, we just come out, nope, he's fine, he's good to go. And then you have people think he's not hurt. He's just, wanting to sit and earn his, or not earn, he's wanting to sit and just collect a paycheck. That's not true either. I think the truth is in the middle here. I think Deshaun is really hurt. But at the same time, I do think there is a part of it that for him, that's kind of like, okay, I don't want to hurt myself further. But at the same time, I also feel like there is a bunch of pressure. That's personally how I feel. I want nothing more than to be 100% wrong. I hope at the end of the year we can look back at this and say, wow, you really overreacted. Because if I am wrong, we're going to be in a great spot. If I'm right, yikes. Yikes. That's why I'm at where I'm at, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think this is going to have to be one where we just agree to
We have to wait
disagree.
and see. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's going to be proven come later in the year what was really wrong. But yeah, I, I, I have a hard time believing that, like, if this is truly how bad as it is, right? Like, this is the approach we're deciding to take. I have a really, really tough time, like, understanding how this management group and this ownership group would feel as though they could make the same mistake twice. That's where I'm at. But
Yeah.
um, I will say this, and I will agree for this aspect. I do think we should go out and get Jacoby because
Mhm.
you know if we're in a situation where you know what it's proven to us is Deshaun, we haven't been able to rely to have him on the field so far yet this year. Um, and this team's too good to not have a good enough backup quarterback to win us a couple of games if we need it.
Mhm.
I know PJ Walker's technically gotten us a couple of wins, but it has not been because of him. And he's been a net negative. It's just we were able to will ourselves into victories for other circumstances around us. That's what it was. Um, you and I can both agree on that. But I think that if you go out and you get Jacoby Brissett, um, I think it makes a lot more sense. I texted you this last night that I thought that this was going to be uh, that this was going to possibly be a day where we saw a trade. And sorry, I was speaking at my phone. I saw a bunch of
No, you're good.
Twitter notifications, so I was like, maybe. But I thought that today was potentially a day where we could have saw a quarterback deal go down for us. Just because I think you got to have some security at that position at this moment in time. And you know what? If you know, this game was huge for the AFC playoff picture for like wild card purposes. I think ESPN coming into this game, like that predictor thing or whatever it is, the the analytics machine, the percentages. If we won this game, it was 70% odds of getting into the playoffs. If we lost, it was like 30. So, I think you're going into some NFC games. If Deshaun's not 100% and this, I'll still call it a bruise because that's what it's been reported as. But if this bruise still kind of persists for him, and you can give him a couple of weeks off, and you can have a competent quarterback that's going to win you at least one of the two games, and have him, as close to 100% as you can against the Ravens, and who knows, maybe Stefanski was just paranoid and, he didn't want to have a repeat of the Baker situation, took Deshaun out of this past game to make sure he was 100% A-OK with an MRI. He ends
I
up
think he was
having a
just
clear
benched.
MRI.
I
You,
think he
you
was just
think?
benched. Yeah, he the way he was playing,
But
he was
here's
just.
I've seen Baker Mayfield have worse performances and he's kept him out there though. That's the thing.
Well,
Because
I think it's a
Packers,
mix. Oh, yeah.
like he had every right to sit Baker Mayfield in that game.
Mhm.
And I don't think he just casually sits his quarterback after after a few drives. I don't think that he does that. I think he figures it out. And he tries to do that. That's why I don't think it was just him sitting him. Um, I think it was him wanting to make sure that the MRI would come back clean and he's completely fine.
Mhm.
Because he realizes that this team is a Super Bowl caliber team and you want your quarterback to be there. So, um, at least that's how I interpret it. It's how I think they're interpreting it. And who knows, maybe his MRI came back spotless, perfectly fine. And, he's going to play this week and, we'll see how he does. But
I hope.
ultimately, I really wish this was not a conversation
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we've had this for how
Exactly.
long
Yep.
now. Um, I mean, it's just end of the day is after this year, we still got 3 years left on this guy's deal. So,
Yeah.
excuse me, we're gonna have to make it work if we want to win a Super Bowl with this core, right? Miles Garrett, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, all of these core pieces. If we want to win a Super Bowl with these guys, it's gonna have to happen with Deshaun Watson. Really, I mean, if it doesn't, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna tear it all down, and we'll see if we can build it back up again. That's where we're at. So
Yeah.
I'm not ready to write off this guy after he hasn't been able to get his feet on the ground. I mean, this guy hasn't played a full like 5-6 week stretch in like 3 years. So I'm okay to be on the optimistic side because it's a new guy, a guy who's proven that he can play at the elite level, and even though it was only one game in Cleveland, has proven he can get back to that level. So
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but I get why you feel the way you feel, and personally, like I don't doubt you for feeling that way because I mean we're the Browns, man. like we've
Mhm.
been through it, and we've seen this movie before. We've seen the story before, but I think it's different. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just gonna have to be. It's gonna have to just be a waiting game. All
Yeah.
I'll say is I have zero trust in this organization and how they handle these things. I have absolutely zero trust. So, um, if he does indeed start next week, I I really hope that he can a finish a game and be just good enough, right? That's all we need. Just be good enough. Get the job done. If he finishes the game next week, I'll be shocked. Um, because I really do. If he plays, I feel like it could be another situation like last week where it's a couple drives, maybe doesn't look great, and we're back again. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. But go
My
ahead.
my Cinderella story would be Deshaun comes out, plays, balls his ass off, and we kick the crap out of Seattle, and we look great.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's my
Well,
Cinderella story, and I'm not eliminating it as a possibility.
I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say on the matter because then we'll talk about Jerome Ford real fast, and because we
Yes.
got our time sticking. But
Oh yeah.
um, I think my biggest thing here is if Deshaun comes out next week, plays fine, or even plays good, I will be very happy. I'll be surprised. I'll be very happy. But what I will say is I need to see it again against the Cardinals because the biggest thing with an injury like this is continuously testing it. Where are you at? What's your mobility? What's your availability? Those sorts of things. If we come out, beat the Seahawks, looks good, whatever, great, awesome. Do it again against the Cardinals. Then if you put two back to back, you look good, right? The arm looks good enough, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be like, okay, could take a little bit of a breather here. So, but
Yeah.
on the injury list, Drum Ford's hurt. So I said it last week, you agreed. I think Kareem Hunt needs more touches. Now he's going to get more touches. Pierre Strong will undoubtedly get more touches now. Question becomes, where do we go from here now that Jerome Ford, he's probably going to be out a good, I'd say probably 2 to 3 weeks. He's got a mild high ankle sprain is
I
what they
think
described it.
I think Schefter reported 1 to 2. So just
Okay.
to be safe, we'll say 2. So
Okay.
I mean,
So
he
yeah.
misses this game against Seattle, next game against Arizona. I think we'll be fine at the running back spot for those 2 weeks in my eyes. But
Yeah.
sorry, but you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just, and we can keep this one fast. It's really just a question of like, okay, do you go out and bring somebody in? For me personally, if there's a move to be made, I'm calling up the Jets for Michael Carter. They don't really use him that much. He could come in and be a basically what Jerome Ford exceeds at is really, in the pass game. And I think Michael Carter could be a cheap addition to whether even if you bring him into this room and Jerome Ford comes back, I think he still could have a role, right? And it would help this pass game out a lot because if you could have another running back that you can really use as a receiver out of the backfield as well, I think that's huge. And I think that would be helpful. The other one that's if you really want to swing for the fences, and this has kind of been a conversation within some of my friend groups, you know, do you call about Derrick Henry, see if they'll eat some of that cap? I would. It doesn't hurt to make the phone call. That's what I'll say. But I
If
don't
you
think
can
it's a huge big need.
if you can get done for like a fourth round pick, then sure. But
That's what
uh,
I said too.
yeah, but I mean, here's what I think. I think that if you do make a deal for a running back, it means it's a wrap for either Jerome Ford or Pierre Strong. One of them is going to be cut. There's no way we're carrying 4 running backs on this roster. Not going to happen. Um, and what I'll say is this: uh, I think that Pierre Strong's shown you enough that it's like, what, let's test this guy out and see what he's got. You know, because like I said, I mean, there were times during this past game against the Colts where like I'd blink my eyes and that guy would go from having the ball put in his chest and he would be beyond the line of scrimmage. I think he's got big play potential in him. I love how he runs that football. He's not Nick Chubb, but he runs like he's Nick Chubb, where it's just like he gets that ball, he sees that gap, and he's just gone. And I like that. I like that a lot. Um, I think between him and Kareem splitting the touches, they'll be fine. I mean, worst comes to worst, you can run end arounds with Marquise Goodwin. He's showing that he's good at it.
Well, you could
Elijah
pull Felton
Moore.
off of the practice squad.
True. Yeah, that's
So
true. Felton from the practice squad, he's been promising. So I don't think we're in a spot where, listen, if Kareem Hunt went down, make a move. Make a
mhm.
move. It changes pretty much everything. Um, but I mean, Jerome Ford, he's capable of having some big runs in him, but it's not like we just lost Nick Chubb, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but I'll say this: I just I think it's not a huge concern, and the reason why I just don't think it's a huge concern is we're not going to be winning games because of our running backs anymore. Like they'll contribute to a win, but they're
Mhm.
not going to be the reason why we won. So at the end of the day, it's going to be our quarterback and it's going to be our passing game. So I think that's worth more of an investment. And I didn't talk about this during the game preview, and I'll be quick about this, but Donovan Peoples-Jones has been very underwhelming for me. I mean, as a punt returner, he's been extremely underwhelming. And in our receiving game, it's like, what does he offer us that David Bell
Yeah.
doesn't at this point? So, and we can go out and get a different type of receiver, maybe give Cedric Tillman some more touches. Like he's a non-factor for us anymore. Is where I'm kind of at with him. So, you know, if you're going to end up relying on your pass game, like I think we are, I think you potentially got to look at upgrading. So, and I know we
Yeah.
made calls, so we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, we'll see. I know a lot of people hating on Jerry Judy. Jerry Judy just went 5 for 5 receptions for 64 yards. So I,
Big
you know,
money.
people, yeah, people are gonna hate on him. That's fine. But I'm telling you, like, if you're telling me you wouldn't take 5 for 5 for 64 yards right now alongside of Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, yeah, you would.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we need
So
another wideout that's capable of like easing the pressure off of Cooper. You know?
we need another route runner. That's what we need.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's, I'm not saying it has to be Jerry Judy, but that's what he is. So,
yeah. No,
but
I get you. I get you. Yeah.
eh, anyways, let's quickly talk about the Seahawks game. I know
hmm
I'll go first because I'll keep it really fast for me. It's pretty simple. I think the biggest thing, it's always going to be tough going to Seattle. It's always going to be tough. That's my favorite stadium in the league by far, is the Seahawks stadium. I think defensively, you're going to need another Jim Schwartz masterclass because DK Metcalf should be healthy this week. Um, JSN put up a pretty solid performance last week. And, Lockett's a veteran, right? So a lot of times these veteran receivers, even if they're not as good as they once were, they just know, they just know how to get open, right? So for me, I think we're going to need a big game from our secondary. Going to have to be a hell of a lot better than they were last week. That's for sure. Um, I'm not really concerned about Kenneth Walker. I've heard a lot of people are kind of concerned about the run game. I'm really not personally, just because I think Jim Schwartz will, after this last week against Indy, the Seahawks don't have as good as an offensive line, obviously. Um, and I just think we're going to be able to stop the run. I think it's just a matter of containing those receivers, trying to force Geno into making some mistakes. I would try to get pressure and find different ways to get pressure. That's just, for me, defensively what makes sense for this game. Offensively, it's going to be interesting. It really is, because if you want to know my answer to this game, I think you got to run the football. I think you got to take the game out of the strength of that defense, and then the strength of that defense is that secondary. Because Witherspoon is a fucking stud. He is a stud. He's one of my favorite corners in the league. Um, they Quandre Diggs, really good safety. Tariq Woolen, very good safety. They still got Kobe Bryant. So, as far as secondaries, I've said it multiple times. I think the Browns secondary and the Seahawks secondary are very mirrored after each other in many, many ways. I think we're better, obviously, or we're more complete as far as the secondary goes. But don't let them make a difference. Find ways to run the football, even if it's just 5-10 yard chunks at a time. Control the clock and just do it. And if Deshaun is playing and does play this game, I think you got to make it easy for him. Play action, go back to the Baker offense. Um, just find different ways to get some easy open targets and just hit him. See if he can hit them. And it is what it is. But I I really don't know for this game. I think the Browns can win, but I really feel like Seattle's going to. I really do. That's just how I feel. But I mean, it all comes down to quarterback. That's really what it comes down to. So, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I agree the quarterback play will matter in this game. It matters in every single game. Um, if this defense is able to neutralize Seattle in the ways that they've been able to neutralize offenses outside of the Colts, um, I think we'll be okay. Whether it's Deshaun playing great, whether it's Deshaun playing bad, whether it's, PJ Walker, DTR in there. I think, if this defense plays the way we know it can, they return to how they've been playing. I think we'll be okay and we'll be in a position where we can win. Um, for me, it's, defensively, the big question mark for me, DK Metcalf, just because he's just a huge physical presence. Um, and I don't know as though he's a type of receiver that, um, Michael Pittman is also kind of like a big physical presence at a
Yeah,
receiver spot.
that's
So,
what scares
that's
me.
kind of where, hey, maybe this is a guy that, you know, maybe he can get the better of us in some certain spots. But I mean, outside of one big play, I thought Michael Pittman was okay.
Mhm.
But I don't think he killed us. But DK Metcalf has the ability to kill us if we don't prepare for him properly. Um, but with that being said, you can neutralize their pass attack by getting to the quarterback. We
Mhm.
need to get to the quarterback. That's the big thing, and we've been able to do it really well in all of our other games besides against Indy. So, you know, the Seattle offensive line is very beatable with our D line. So, blitz, man up, and make them either get some success on the ground in the run game, or make them make short plays. That way, you can't let DK beat you downfield. You can't let Tyler Lockett beat you downfield. Don't let
Mhm.
JSN beat you downfield. Simple as that for me. As far as the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you're right. A lot of what we do is going to depend on our quarterback. But let me make this easy and say our game plan should be the same with whoever's in at quarterback this week. Um, and here's why. If we try to do these long developing plays downfield for the passing game, like we've been trying to do with Deshaun for the past several weeks, it's just not going to work. It's
Mhm.
simply not going to work. It hasn't worked. But what has worked is when you've established a run, which I think you can do against Seattle. You can establish a run, especially with let your offensive line win early, man. Like,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
this offensive
Mhm.
line run block the hell out of that D line, let them knock them on their heels, and then you know what? Make them commit an extra linebacker or somebody else into the box, and let it open up some space for your wide receivers on the boundary. Let it open up some opportunities for Njoku over the middle. It has to start with our run game. I agree with you there, because if Pierre Strong can get a couple of big runs, if Kareem Hunt can get a couple of big runs, you know, I think it changes everything in that game,
I agree.
because now you're saying, listen, your corners have to go one on one, and while we respect your corners in your secondary and they're very good, I doubt that they have the capabilities that our secondary has shown so far, minus this past game. You know,
Mhm.
um, so I would prefer that. I would prefer that much more. I think Marquise Goodwin has to feature in this game, in my opinion. I think every time that we've had the ball in his hands on those end arounds, it's been successful and electric. Elijah Moore clearly has fit better on the boundary. This past game, I thought he was great. Um,
Mhm.
we stopped running those dumb end arounds with him. Um, you know, make make it so that way. Base everything off your run and make it simple in the pass game. you know, if Deshaun's in there, spread, if Deshaun or whoever is in there and you're passing the football, spread them out and make them have to play one on one on somebody. Make them have to play one on one on somebody. I dare them to play one on one on Amari Cooper. I dare him. I mean, Amari just
Mhm.
had a bad game. I I doubt he's gonna come out and have another bad one if they play him like that. So
I wonder who's gonna be guarding him. I wonder which
here's
of
the
their
thing.
corners they're gonna put on him.
Here's the thing though, is like if we game plan correctly, it doesn't matter who they put on them, because either they're going to one-on-one again, they're
Mhm.
going to go one-on-one against them, uh, or they are going to get gashed in other areas. That's how we have to play this is,
Yeah.
let them choose. Okay, you want to take Amari out of it? I'm going to, get the ball in space to Elijah Moore. I'm going to throw the ball over the middle to Njoku. I'm going to run it down your throat. You know, make them put that extra guy in the box. Make them do it. That's the
Big,
biggest thing. The biggest key of this
big,
game for me.
big Njoku game. This is a big game where you spread, like you said, you spread it out. And, when I talk about the 5, 10, 15-yard chunks, those are plays that should go to Njoku. I mean, we've had the middle wide open. And if the Seahawks look at the way the Browns have been game planning offensively, they should honestly just guard the outsides, because the Kevin Stefanski right now refuses to throw over the middle of the field. So if I'm Stefanski, I'm running the ball, I'm spreading it out, but at the same time, I'm going, oh, hey, where's David? You know, get your 7 yards, whatever. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But
Mhm.
you got anything more on
Yeah.
this game?
Um, we didn't give Shane Steichen enough respect going into this past game. I think, Pete Carroll, been one of the longest tenured head coaches in the NFL now, and he's a good head coach. He's going to have a good game plan against us. And, I think we've got the more talented team, but we've got to have at least a comparable game plan to him, or else we will not win. So,
Yep.
you know, it's an interesting game, and we'll see how
Yep.
it goes. But
For sure.
I'm excited.
Yep. So, all right, everybody. Well, me and Tristan have to dip out because we have to be to bed, unfortunately. But Monday Night Football is on. The Vikings are up 10-0, but looks like the 49ers are going to score here soon. But anyway, go Browns. Doesn't feel like a win, but we did win. Got some games coming up that are winnable.
Victory Monday, baby.
It
That's
is.
what this is all about.
Given or earned, it's Victory Monday. So, with that being said, everybody, go Browns. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts. We'll see you in the next one.